Welcome to today's videos, ladies and gentlemen. We have our wow, hello. We have our freshly built Phase 4 with some new strings on it from the last video. And I was like, you know what? Now, this tune on this bow is kind of thrown off. So I was like, it would be a good idea. Obviously, we're getting closer to hunting season, and now is really the time you want to fine tune everything. It's like, why don't we make a video talking about, a longer form video, talking about how I would go about tuning my broadheads. Here we are. We got a fresh set of strings. We did shoot it through paper in the last video, and it's pretty dang close, but we're gonna double check that. That honestly is always step number one for me, is I'll shoot it through paper with fletchings, I guess, just to kind of see what's going on with it. We can get a bare shaft one. It kind of shows a little bit more, of the flaws of a paper tune. So I have this arrow, I got a busted fletch on it, so we'll just kind of cut that off, rip this down. Just kind of shows a little bit more dramatic, you know, I guess exaggerates is the word I'm trying to find, the paper tune. So we will shoot this through paper real quick, a standard 4 fletch arrow, and I am going to start out using these Be Real boning X veins, a great vein for broadheads because they're a little bit longer, a little bit higher, and it's a weaker vein, which actually does pretty good for steering broadheads. So, and in a 4 fletch. So, if I'm going to be shooting like a big expandable, or not expandable, a big fixed blade, you have to run some bigger fletchings, especially if you go out 70, 80, 90, 100 yards. Just needs to stabilize. So here we are. Let's shoot it through paper. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty dang good right there. Nothing. So let me grab this bare shaft, and we'll just see if there's any difference. It looks pretty good. Dang. Yeah, this sucker's tuned pretty well, actually. That's money. I'm gonna back up to 8 yards, do this again. I will say I was just talking with one of the engineers at Matthews, and we were just talking about like arrow spine, and I told him, you know, I bumped this bow up to 77 pounds. I was like, do you think I should bump up to a 300 spine or like a 350? And I kind of talked it out, and honestly, Matthews bows, like, if you have the option, if you're on the edge, you always want to go weaker with the Matthews bow. So I'm staying with this 350 spine and this VAP TKO, and I think it's going to be fine. It's cut pretty short. It's cut right at the rest, but I mean, it's tuning good. And honestly, getting your broadheads to tune, really, really important. You have the proper spine for your arrows. If you're, you know, I'm 28-inch draw, just over 28 inches with the twisting up the cables, 77 pounds. So that's a lot. And I'm still only shooting a 350 spine arrow. A lot of people will be like, oh, you need 300 or 250 with some weight. But honestly, I feel like people overspine their arrows more so than they probably should, especially for broadheads. So we're going to try back here. We're getting a slight little bit at 8 yards, but I'm not going to mess with that. I mean, it's pretty delicate by that point. I mean, we're not getting a crazy tear. So that's what I like to do if I do bare shaft. I rarely do. But it's like, are the fletchings hiding any of your big mistakes? And you shoot the bare shaft and you'll be like, oh no, it's good. Or like, wow, that's way off. We need to do something about it. So that's good. Now what we're gonna do, and I guess I should say, like, we have this bow semi set up, but like in all of my builds, and like we were just putting on strings, if you do things properly, like you put the strings on correctly, the bow is in time, you check the timing, you have your knocking point 100% in the middle with the burger hole, and then your rest, the QED rest, if you have it 0 and 0, you shouldn't really have to move anything. You might have to shift the top hats. Typically you have to shift the top hats slightly, the cam slightly to the right. That's at least what I've experienced in talking to pro shops. You gotta bump it like 1 to the right. But besides that, I mean, if your arrows are tuned, or arrows are spined correctly, if you have the right fletchings paired with the broadhead, you should be really, really dang close. So now what we're gonna do, we're just gonna do trial by fire, and we're gonna go out to 20 yards, and we're gonna shoot a field tip, and then I'm gonna shoot like, I think I'm gonna shoot a Montec probably, and just kind of see where they land. And then we'll go from there if we have to make any more adjustments. You just can't go wrong with the Montec. It's just a good head. Okay, so we got one broadhead. Let's grab one field tip, and to make this easy, we'll shoot the broadhead with these yellow veins and the field tip with the white one, just so we get a good differentiation. And I don't have any binos, so I wear my harness without binos because they're in my truck. Okay, so I'm gonna shoot the broadhead first. I guess I don't quite know what my 20 yard is. We might have to adjust. Okay. That went a little high where I was aiming. I think my tape is gonna be slightly off. Okay, so I'm gonna move this slightly. I'm getting sighted in because these are new strings. I haven't shot this bow to get it sighted in yet, so I gotta move that. I should have shot some field tips before doing this, but here we are. Okay, so don't really take any credence on those. We're gonna do it again now. Hopefully I'm sighted in. I'll shoot my field tip, or I should still shoot my broadhead first, because I don't want to damage these arrows. Yeah, just Robin Hood it with a broadhead. That was solid. I feel like my broadhead is hitting a little left. So now I got my broadhead and sticking in it up and down. I think it was right where I was aiming, so my sight tape's now on. Now I'm just gonna aim right at that arrow. Gosh, that actually is pretty good. 20 yards, it's always good to start at when doing this. And essentially what we're trying to do is get them to hit in the same spot, your broadhead and your field tips, just to, you know, when they hit in the same spot, you have a good tune. So, I mean, that's pretty dang close. For 20 yards, I mean, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go back to like 40 yards, and we're gonna do the same test. And let's say you're at 20 yards here, and your field tip, let's say it's like in the middle right here, and then your broadhead went left. So if your broadhead went left, what you're gonna wanna do is adjust your rest. So you're gonna adjust your rest towards your field tip. So if your broadhead went to the left of your field tip arrow, you're gonna move your rest to the right, slight amount. And essentially it's a trial and error, and it's like, you do it a little bit, you shoot again, you do a little bit, you shoot again, and it's like, oh, I went a little too far, and now the broadhead's on the right side. And essentially what's happening is you're trying to find the right spot, the right tune to where they fly exactly the same, and your front broadhead is it's another set of fletchings. And so as it's flying, as it's flexing, it's actually like, since it's out of tune, it's like grabbing air differently and ripping it to one side or the other, or up and down. So that's why it's important to make sure that you have perfect arrow flight, because if you don't, it's gonna plane one way or another. And that's why big fletchings help with that. It just kind of helps with the boo-boos and the bad shots, and if your arrow gets hit by wind or whatever. So we're gonna go to 40 yards now and see if anything changes. Broadhead first, and hopefully I can guess my yardage right. That's a dead elk. That looks pretty good to me. Oh my goodness. I did legs 2 days ago and I'm just dead. Get ready for those big adventure hunts in August. Trying to be mini Cam Haynes over here. Okay, so I'm gonna aim now still directly at that arrow, and we'll see where it goes. I mean, it's within an inch. It's pretty dang good. I was hoping that we'd be a little off on this, but we're gonna go back. We're gonna keep working it back to show our errors more and more. We're gonna go to 60, do it again, double check, and then I'm just gonna throw the bow out of whack, and I'll show you guys how to get it back in. All right, so broadhead arrow, field tip arrow, and within an inch and a half, I'm pretty happy with that. At that point, it's human error. So, I mean, I think that just goes to show that if you got a pretty decently tuned bow, paper tuned, you know, bullet hole, and you get the right arrow setup, arrow spine, right fletchings, you're always going to be pretty close. I will say too, this is a trick. Even if you're shooting expandables, tune your bow with fixed blades, because fixed blades, they are terrible to tune with sometimes, and really gets your bow dialed. And then when you switch over to expandables, you're like all set. So sometimes if you don't tune your bow at all and then throw expandables on it, they can do some weird things, even though they're supposed to be, you know, true arrow flight, blah blah blah, but it still is extra out in front of the arrow compared to a field tip, and you know, it catches wind, planes out weird or whatever. So little tip. 60. This is now at a distance where pretty much all your flaws show, and we'll go back. My goal every time when I broadhead tune a bow is to shoot a broadhead at 20 yards and then go all the way back to 100 and be within like an inch or two of that same arrow. If I do that, then it was mission successful. Okay, so that went a little right, a little left. Okay, so I'm gonna aim in the same spot, like kill shot on this elk, and we'll see where this goes. Ideally, when doing this, is you have a dot down there, and you always aim at that dot. I'm kind of cheating earlier when I was like, the broadhead went right behind the pin, so I'm just gonna aim at it, or it went like an inch left, I'm just gonna aim at it, and then we'll kind of, you know, go from there or whatever. So ideally, you have a dot down there, like on that morel on the left, then you just aim at that dot. But I kind of like aiming at a blank, no dot when doing this. I just feel like it's a little bit more responsive. Okay, we might have a little tweak here. So I'm a little low, which is just my sight tape, but my field tip is to the right, my broadhead's to the left. So what I'm gonna do is, I think we're gonna do next round shooting at the morel target at a dot, now that we're at farther distance. We'll see if we get the same thing, and then if we do get the same thing when the broadhead's to the left, I'll just so slightly move my rest to the right. Okay, shooting at the morel now, I got a little orange dot down there. I will aim at the same spot, shoot these two, see where they go. A little low left. So they both went left. This might just be a sighting in issue. Let's give it a couple clicks. This never happens, where your bow is just perfect. Very rarely. Equally to the left, the broadhead is a little bit low, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. When we get to 100 yards, I bet we'll still experience some drop. Man, I mean, we're pretty dialed here with our broadheads. I want to go over again one more time, like if we were in a situation where everything wasn't perfect, which typically is a result, if all of your other equipment is right, it's typically a result of just your tune not being 100%, your paper tune. It could be a weird knock pinch issue. The thing is broadheads expose everything when tuning them, so if one little thing's wrong, you might go down a little rabbit hole. But here we are. So let's say field tip goes right in the middle. I just want to explain this one more time. And then your broadhead hits to the right, just like that. Straight, of course. You're going to move your rest to the left to bring it in line with your field tip, because essentially you're slightly out of center shot and your broadhead exaggerates whatever direction you're out of center shot. So what you're going to experience is, you know, we have field tip broadhead here. You're going to move your rest to the left, and they're essentially both going to come into something like this, and then you have to re-sight in the middle, because you are bumping your rest to the left. So you're going to bring your field tip over, but you are going to now be center shot, and your broadhead will come over and hit the same. So, and same vice versa. If you're getting a weird up and down, like your broadheads are hitting high or you're hitting low, I mean, the most apparent thing is that your arrow is either nock high or nock low. So as it's coming out of the bow, the broadhead, the wind is planing and catching and it's just hugging low, or broadhead's planing and going high. So that's also really important. You're just trying to find perfect center shot through trial and error by doing this shooting. Like I said before, it really boils down to your arrow setup, fletchings, paired with what sort of broadhead you have. I love a ventilated broadhead because I think it is more forgiving. The solid construction broadheads, I think, plane way easier and are way more sensitive. So a ventilated broadhead like this is huge. It doesn't matter what broadhead it is, if it's, as long as it's ventilated, to get honestly the drag. You know, it's a little louder, but way more forgiving and accuracy over everything. So we're gonna go back. I'm gonna show you guys at like 100 yards, just kind of see what this does, and this bow should be pretty dialed by then. 100.3. I'll aim at the same dot. I think it went left still. Yeah, low left. Very nice. They're about in the same spot, but we are still left. Left and a little low. Okay, we're gonna do that one more time. I really wanna get them in the same spot here at 100, and then what we're gonna do is do my 20-yard shot with the broadhead, come all the way back to 100 and try to get them really, really close. Here's a broadhead, here's a field tip. Just left, really good group, and I'm gonna talk about now this drop, this difference between the field tip and the broadhead. 4 inches of drop. It's solely because of drag. All broadheads are gonna have X amount of drag at these longer distances, and it's very important that sometimes I'll even make bump up a sight tape because I know there's gonna be drag. And when you get to your longer distances, if you just use your field tip sight tape, you're gonna be hitting, you know, 3, 4, 5 inches low. Some broadheads are bad, really bad, and will drop like a foot sometimes. So it's really important you come out here, you shoot, you see the comparison, and get some trial and error. But we moved our sight now. I'm gonna do one more, or should we just raw do it? Should we just raw, just freaking shoot a broadhead at 20 and then go to 100? I think we should do that. Yeah, let's do that. Now the broadhead, so now we have 2 broadheads, 2 identical arrows. And shoot the white one at 20 yards, go back to 100, and try to get them within 4 or 5 inches. I mean, that'd be good. Okay, so we're starting out at 100 yards because my bow is down here. I forgot I left it down here. So we're just gonna put one at 100, and then we'll scooch all the way up to 20 and see if we can get them touching. That looked good. Okay, we are just outside the dot, an inch to the, so I probably just moved my left and right too much, but I like that. If you can shoot a fixed blade broadhead at 100 yards and it hits the same as your field tips, I mean, come on, man. Make sure to move my sight, that'd be good. I think it was something like that. This might be a little high or a little low, just because I don't have a mark. Money bag, that's perfect. All right, so here we go. We have broadhead at 20, broadhead at 100. Within, I mean, that's within 2 fingers right there. I absolutely love that. Now, the sight, if we went and did this again, you know, I bumped my sight over a little bit, and I mean, human error within 3 inches. I'm super pumped with that. So I now consider this bow properly tuned, and therefore it shoots broadheads correctly. And I believe now I can shoot any sort of broadheads with this bow, which is dope. That process actually was really easy. Sometimes you're kind of chasing around and you got to change out your fletchings, maybe try something a little, you know, taller profile if you're having problems, or dip down a spine. It's typically people over spine, especially for broadheads. So yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed. Wow, that is stuck in there. Wow. Hope you guys enjoyed this broadhead tuning video. That is how I tune my broadheads, and I check myself with that 20 and 100 yard shot. I challenge you guys to do the same thing, but you don't have to do 100 yards. Just do like your max distance. So come to 20 yards, shoot a broadhead, go to 40, go to 50, go to 60, whatever you're comfortable with shooting, and knowing that you're gonna, you know, hit within a decent amount of area of your 20 yarder. So it's a good check. It's a huge confidence boost. And do it now. Do it now. Double check it before season, but don't wait. Don't wait until August, September, October. You know, do it now before the fall. Do it in the summertime when you have time. So thank you all for watching. Catch you in the next one.